All right, welcome back. We are heading into week 6 of the NFL season, and James got a lot to talk about. We got some waiver wire pickups here that James is going to talk to us about to help out your fantasy team. James, what you got?
I want to start with a fantasy update first for our fantasy football league. I lost to Anthony big time. Anthony's put up 155 points, but now I'm 2-3 on the year. I think I'm tied for second to last with Trading beats Spear. He's also 2-3 now. Eric finally lost the game. He was undefeated up until this point. He lost to Tyler. They're both 4-1, tied for first place. Three-way tie right there. And Alex. He finally won his first game. He's no longer winning. He hasn't won. He finally won. There we go. That's what we're going with. He's 1-4. And there's been a lot of schedule changes here because of all the COVID stuff, which means the teams that were on bye before are no longer on bye. So the new set of teams that are on bye this week are the Saints, the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Seahawks. So if you have anybody in those teams, find replacements now. We're going to start with quarterback like we always do. My quarterback pick of the week is Ryan Fitzpatrick, a.k.a. Fitzmagic. He absolutely destroyed my team this weekend. It was brutal. He's currently owned in 19.9% of leagues. In week 5, he had 27.6 points. Overall, he's QB number 7 on the year. Who would have thought? Definitely not me. Against San Francisco, he went 22 for 28, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 carries for 16 yards. He scored 20-plus points in every week except for week 1. 3 weeks ago maybe, I mentioned him as an honorable mention for my QB list, and it's really turned out really well because he's been killing it ever since then. Up next, he plays the horrible New York Jets, who just cut Le'Veon Bell. It's going to be an even worse team than they were before. Adam Gase, you're a terrible coach. Just quit, dude. Anyway, Eric, you had Dak as your QB, and he went down brutally this weekend with that broken leg. What do you think about Fitzmagic? Would you add him?
Yeah, I do have him actually. I picked him up that day, taking a shit that morning, just randomly thinking that I needed a quarterback for the bye week because it was crazy. I was like, damn, Dak's doing really good this year. I'm going to need someone to just, replace him for this bye week. I need to look at some guys right now. Looked at the trends. Ended up getting Fitzmagic. And then you witnessed just snap his ankle live. You live and you learn. I got Fitzmagic now. He's been consistent ever since that Thursday night beatdown on the Jags. He does have 1,344 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. His running back, Gaskin, Tyler, is starting to take more pressure off the pass game where they can run play actions against defenses for big yards. Niners. His last 3 games, 26.7 points, 21.3, and then this week I had him on the bench, 30.6 points. In other words, I'm glad to have him
now. Do you think he's going to stay starter for the rest of the season with Tua being his backup?
I think he's got a short leash. I mean, the Dolphins are I think they're 1 game behind the Patriots for second in that division. Fitzmagic keeps working the magic. I think they keep till just a big fuck up is when they put Tua in.
He's doing really well right now, so I don't see that happening anytime soon. A couple other notable quarterbacks that I think should be added is Jared Goff for the Rams, won in 47.1% of leagues, put up 24.4 points. And Teddy Bridgewater from the Panthers, won in 43% of leagues, he put up 20.9 points. Carolina's defense is bad, so the Panthers have to throw a lot. And Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore and even Mike Davis, when they get Christian McCaffrey back, they look like a good, solid offense. Teddy Bridgewater is going to get a lot of points. Look to pick him up if you can. Moving on to running back, we have Alexander Madison from Minnesota. He's owned in 41.6% of leagues. In week 5, he put up 16.6 points in basically a half. This is because Dalvin Cook got injured. On the season, he only has 41 points, but like I said, he was the back to Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook is out this upcoming week. If you have him, you want to handcuff him with Alexander Madison. He does well with all his opportunities so far. In Seattle, he had 20 carries for 112 yards, which is 5.6 yards per carry. He also had 3 receptions for 24 yards. On the season as a whole, he averages 5 yards per carry. The Vikings are an extremely run-heavy team. Kirk Cousins has 134 pass attempts, and they have 154 rushes on the year as a whole. Up next, they have the Falcons. Falcons are bad. They just fired their coach. They have a terrible defense. The running back position on average puts up 142 yards against them. Traden, you're a little thin in RB after Nick Chubb and Austin Eckler got hurt. What do you think about Alexander Madison?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for not giving me a wide receiver, so I don't have to talk about how much I hate T.Y. Hilton. That said, I look at this guy, and he seems like a perfect pickup for someone in my position, right? 16.6 fantasy points, as you said, 20 attempts for 112 yards, and he even got a touchdown last game when he went in for relief for Dalvin Cook. And again, week 5, and he just continues to rise to the occasion, which is pretty great. It seems like Dalvin Cook is going to be out for multiple weeks now, which gives Madison the clear go ahead as the feature RB1. And it's kind of amazing to see a backup running back or whatever you want to call him be able to handle the workload of an RB1 easily. Like, it seems like he just fits right in there. He's going to take multiple downs. He's proven he can, which again is surprising when you don't have your top running back in. Usually you're going to start to spread the wealth, and I think that he's going to be able to take a lot more downs than a typical backup RB1. He's the guy at the top of the waiver wire, I think, overall, and we'll talk about that later. And in platforms outside of the ESPN fantasy platform, you wouldn't even be talking about this guy because he's owned in well above 50% in those other platforms. So either ESPN is slow to update, or us ESPN fantasy owners are all fucking idiots because everyone's ahead of us. And I guarantee we won't be talking about this guy, come next week. He's going to be easily owned in 60 to 70% of leagues.
I agree with you there. A couple other notable running backs is Chase Edmonds from Arizona, owned at 46.5%, had 20.2 points. Kenyon Drake looks slow. He doesn't look like the guy he was last year. Chase Edmonds looks like he's going to step in and be that guy for Arizona. And Cordell Patterson from Chicago, owned at 4.5. He had 7.5% or 7.5 points last week. He's also a wide receiver. He comes out of the backfield, catches a lot of passes. If you're in a PPR league, give him a look. Moving on to wide receiver, we have Chase Claypool, or as Tyler liked to call him, Chase Carpool. He's owned in 8.8% of leagues. Last week, he put up 42.6 points, which is the highest point total out of anybody in fantasy of last week. That's a lot of points, guys. Even before this week, he was a top 20 wide receiver on a very pass-heavy team. He's viewed as a third or fourth receiving option on the team. So it's pretty amazing to be a top 20 wide receiver if you're the third or fourth option. Against the Eagles, he had 7 receptions on 10 targets for 110 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also added 3 carries for 6 yards and 1 touchdown. The biggest key here is that Deontay Johnson got hurt again. Last week, he had a concussion, or 2 weeks ago, he had a concussion, something like that. And then this week, he hurt his back. The guy's injury prone. Claypool right now can step in and be that 1 or 2 wide receiver and flourish. The staff and Big Ben really like him as an offensive weapon. We saw this early on from the get-go. They tried to get him the ball as much as they could, so they had him running end arounds. They had him running slants. They tried to be creative with him because he knows what to do when he gets the ball. He showed that even if Deontay Johnson does come back, he's a reliable weapon overall. Up next, he has the Browns. The Browns have given up 8 receiving touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. On average, they give up 296 pass yards per game. Tyler, you currently have Deontay Johnson on your team. Why do you still have him on your team, first and foremost? And what do you think about switching him for Chase Claypool?
He is on my team, but I have not started him all season long, so I might switch him out for Chase Claypool. Claypool. This guy, came out against my Eagles last week and had an amazing performance, 4 total touchdowns, unbelievable. Looking at his stats overall, week 3 a few weeks ago, only 3.4 points. Week 2, 17.8. Week 1, 6.7, and then exploded last week for 42. So a little bit up and down, but as you mentioned, the injury to Johnson is huge. I think that bumps him up to easily the number 1 or 2 option behind Juju Smith-Schuster, who hasn't been utilized as much as I think a lot of people thought he would. So I think this is a very, very good option at wide receiver to pick up. He's owned in, as you mentioned, I think it's 8% of leagues right now. So yeah, I'm kind of looking at him as a possible wide receiver option. So yeah, I think this is a great pickup.
you think he ends up being a top 25 wide receiver at the end of the season?
Currently ranked 21. I think his workload's going to increase from here. I definitely think he can be a top 25.
Awesome. A couple other notable are Travis Fulgham from Philadelphia. He's owned in 0.2% of leagues. He put up 31 points last week. The wide receiver position in Philadelphia is depleted. They're looking at anybody, and this guy runs deep routes and catch the ball. So, I mean, add him if you can. And also, Laviska Shenault Jr. from Jacksonville, owned in 32% of leagues. He put up 14.9 points. He's a wide receiver and running back, so he's going to be on the field a lot more. And lastly, for tight end, we have Cameron Brate from Tampa Bay. He's owned in 1.8% of leagues. In week 5, he had 9.4 points. Against the Bears, he had 5 receptions on 6 targets for 44 yards. The biggest key for Brate is the fact that O.J. Howard tore his Achilles last week. Brate used to be like a reliable tight end for the majority of his career. And Tom Brady really liked Brate a lot. I think I was watching the game and I heard in the interview that he was trying to get Brate on the field for the last couple of weeks, but it just wasn't working out because they had O.J. Howard and they have Gronk. But the fact of the matter is Gronk is a blocking tight end. He said it himself. He's not going to get the amount of targets he used to get. He's out there to block because he's really good at that. So right now he was second in targets in week number 5 with 6 targets from Tom Brady. Up next, he has the Packers. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. Look for Cameron Brate to get a lot of touches there. Alex, your team is struggling right now, and you pretty much need any help you can get. What do you think about Cameron Brate? Would you consider putting him in instead of Zach Ertz given Wentz's recent struggles?
I mean, I would definitely not put Ertz in. He will be not in my lineup next week. Ertz has been a total turd. Brate, on the other hand, it's tough with him. The first 3 weeks with O.J. Howard in, he had a grand total of 0 points. He had 0 targets, 0 receptions. Nothing was in for him. You're totally right about Gronk, though. He is not who he used to be. We talked about that in week 2 of this podcast. We were saying that Gronk took a year off. We just don't know what he's like. I'm probably, only having him owned at 1.8%. I'm not really liking the matchup with the Packers. So I probably would not put him in this week, but he's definitely someone to keep your eye on moving forward. Obviously the Bucs and Tom Brady are a pretty high-powered offense. I'm just not sure if I would play him against the Packers, who are a pretty good team. I mean, granted, it's going to be offense v. offense, kind of what you're talking about. I don't know if I'd give him this week, but maybe keep him on your radar and sort of see what he's looking like after this week, and then go from there.
Thank you for that, Alex. A couple of other notable tight ends is Tyler's favorite Ram of all time, and that's Gerald Everett. He's owned in 0.5% of leagues. He had 13 points last week. And Austin Hooper from Cleveland, owned in 45.3%, put up 10.7 points. Austin Hooper was brought to Cleveland to be this guy, to get a lot of points, to catch a lot of balls, and it's finally coming to fruition. So look for him to keep moving forward. Lastly here, we're going to go around the room, and we're going to ask the guys who their favorite wire pick of the week was. Tyler, let's start with you.
Chase, Claypool.
Okay. Traden.
Yeah, I had a sneaky pick written up before this, and then I realized that he is on bye this week, so it kind of.
Who was it though?
Justin Herbert.
Oh yeah, he did.
I'll talk to him. I'll talk to him about him next week because it actually makes sense because he actually plays next week. That said, I just stuck with Alexander Madison. I had to pick him up because I need the running back. So I think he's perfect for a situation like mine.
Eric.
Surprisingly, still available. Hopefully, I get him off waivers. Ryan Tannehill. Claimed him a couple days ago, and of course tonight he had 4 touchdowns.
It's a good one too.
You love having 2 quarterbacks on your team, don't you?
That's 4-1, 3-1, whatever the fuck I am. Yeah. Hopefully it works.
Alex.
Sticking with tight ends, Eric Ebron. He's second in the team in routes run this season, 12.6 yards per catch. The Eagles' defense is terrible. So that's who they played. You're a solid sleeper if you're frustrated with your current tight end, Zach Ertz.
All right, guys.
Eagles are horrible.
Yeah. Eagles and Niners are both terrible.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that wraps up my segment. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, James. Great as always.